Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Board Gaming Doctor. My name is Phil, and I'll be your Board Game Doctor today. In this ambitious episode, I'm going to list my top games of all time. This is the first time that I've done this and shared it, either on the podcast or on YouTube. And so I will say that I've been making a personal list for about 4 years now. I like to do it around this time of year, along with everyone else. And I have played, more than my fair share of games at this point. But I only rate games, and I want to share the games that I have rated an 8 or above. And when I did that, it took me to 60 games total. So, what I want to do is share from my top 60 all the way down to my number one game. In this episode, I'll get through as much as I can. I'm hoping to get through at least up to like 20 or something. That's my goal. We'll see how long it takes and if it gets to that point. But all of these were done with PubMeeple, ranked them there. There are some slight changes from that initial list, but that is fine. So my number 60 is going to be Take 5 or 6 Nimmt. This game I've played multiple times on Board Game Arena, primarily with my family, and it's just a really fun, easy game to play. It's light enough that you can teach anyone how to play this game, and the reveals of cards that you play and have to play in ascending order, hoping to avoid taking rows of cards, leads to some bombastic and laughing out loud moments. And so, for pure fun and for the sheer amount of games that I've played of this, that's what lands it as an 8 out of 10 for me. But since it is very light and there aren't too many decisions to make, that's kind of what I prioritize in games anyway. And so for that reason, it is at the bottom of the pack. Number 59 is Welcome To. This game is a roll and write, one of my favorite roll and writes. I think there are one or two ahead of this one for me. But this is also available on Board Game Arena, and it's a great game of taking your best choice from out of the cards that are listed when you roll them over, trying to fulfill objectives as well as complete these rows with the correct amount of numbers to get the most points. Pretty thinky for a easy to teach roll and write, and I've had a lot of fun with this one. Next is Azul. 58 is Azul. This game is also another family favorite, and for the amount of plays, almost 50 plays of Azul, this makes my list. It's a easy to teach game of tile laying. However, there's this is a very tournament worthy game. There's a lot of depth to this game, but it's not too hard to get into, and it's a very popular game, and for the amount of times that I've played it with family members, it still feels fun to approach and try to figure out the best way to assemble your tiles on your board. Number 60 or 57 is Deus. Now, this is also available on Board Game Arena. I've only played it twice, but it still left a really good impression on me. It's a civilization-themed card-driven engine builder with some map interaction as well. So it's got a lot of elements that I really enjoy in games that are perhaps heavier than this, but I do want to play this game more and see what depths it has to offer. It's a really fun game that I just need to get into a little bit more. Now, as a surprise, coming in at 56 for me is Gaia Project. I will say that Terra Mystica is not on this list. Age of Innovation I haven't played yet, but I'm sure that it would rank very similarly to Gaia Project. This game I've played a handful of times, but it is a heavy game. To play it strategically and to play it right, I prefer this game over Terra Mystica, and I go into my thoughts in more depth on the podcast, but I like the modularity of this game, the variety that you have in objectives and tech, but this game does require a lot of repetitions and really thinking through your turns to be able to play correctly, or else you're left in the dust. And so I think it rates a little bit lower for me on this list, not because I don't enjoy it, but because it does require a lot more brain power than I'm usually willing to give it when I'm playing asynchronously on Board Game Arena. But it is a game that I hope to dive into a little bit more, since it is a very well thought out game and very strategic, and it's something that I enjoy thinking about. So, Gaia Project lands there. Paladins of the West Kingdom comes in for me at 55. Paladins is my favorite game out of the West Kingdom trilogy, and as well as all of the other Shem Phillips and Garfield games. Um, I like this game because I like the combo nature of fulfilling, these requirements to get extra workers to be able to combo them and use elsewhere. And I like the puzzle that is presented here in your own personal board and the planning ahead with the cards that you flip over from this deck. It also does not land too high on my list just because of the sheer amount of plays, or the lack of which of the plays that I've had. Hoping that this gets onto Board Game Arena soon so I can dive deeper into it. But yeah, this is a fun one. Santorini is number 54 for me. Santorini is probably my favorite pure abstract game, for the reasons of it being a fun game visually as well as, mechanically. Not only for the how you play the game itself, but also with the various god cards that you can have in this game to make it feel different every time, and playing around with some wacky powers to create an interesting and unique game every time. And so when I want to play an abstract, I think this is the one that I would turn to first. Number 53 is Nippon. This game, it's a 2015 title that not a lot of people have played. It is on Board Game Arena. There aren't a lot of games going on, but I think this is a very underrated title that more people should at least try, because this game offers some unique features when it comes to worker placement. The color of workers and where you place them really matters, and there's a bit of area control and building up tiles and engine building, and so a lot of interaction and a really interesting way of keeping track of workers and utilizing them to accomplish your tasks. And so Nippon is one of my favorites. The other game by What's Your Game that is on Board Game Arena, Madeira, is a really interesting game, but it's really tough rules-wise and strategic wise. And so that game missed the mark just a bit for me. I think this one's a little bit easier to get into and understand, and so I prefer that in my heavier games. And so Nippon comes in 53 for me. 52 is Ginkgopolis. This is a tile lane abstracted game with lots of interaction. I really enjoy the fight for creating an area and controlling a majority of those colors, along with the card drafting in order to do so. Lots of intertwined resources, and how the colors of the tiles and the cards work is really cool and neat. And I love that this is more available on Board Game Arena to play. And so, yeah, Ginkgopolis is mine 52. And 51, I think this is my highest rated roll and write, which is Rolling Realms. I liked the theme around this, where you get to play from different Stonemaier games, as well as other games outside of their line of games. And I like the resource management involved, the small little puzzles that you get, and the mixing and matching of these different modules to create a different game every time. I think is, if I'm in the mood for a roll and write, this is the one that I think that I will turn to for, and especially for the cool factor of having your own favorite games be represented here, like A Feast for Odin and otherwise. And so, yeah, so number 50 for me is going to be Clinic. This game is a hospital building simulation that is quite heavy. I like the theme of it, especially the kind of sarcastic theme around how medicine is kind of a business. The longer that I'm in medicine, the more truths that I see around this, uh, for better or for worse. But as a game itself, it's very crunchy and very heavy. It's definitely one that I want to play more, but it left such a good impression that I rank it as such. If you notice, I'm trying to get through these pretty quickly, so this video isn't super long, but I really want to spend more time on the top games that I have here listed. But anyway, 49 is going to be Caylus for me. Caylus was a very surprising game for me on how much I liked it. I played it once on Board Game Arena and thought it was okay, but I really didn't appreciate the fact that you can have so many different tiles to pick from to build along your road here. The whole interaction with the provost is really interesting, and you have different objectives to build up the castle or achieve certain objectives here in the top right corner. This game was really fun, and I liked how very similar to Agricola, which spoiler alert is on this list somewhere, that the ability to create your own worker placement spots in a unfolding kind of way as you start to build out these tiles and buildings here made it so it's pretty simple at first, but then it can get pretty intricate later on. Definitely a game that I want to get better at and understand more. So number 50, or sorry, 40. So Caylus was 49. Tiny Towns is 48. So Tiny Towns is another light game with really agonizing tough decisions. I like the variability of the different buildings that you have to build from, especially when you add the expansions. I like how you can play this with a bigger group of people and it plays pretty quick. But the choices that you have are pretty tough to know where to place buildings and place these resources on your tile in order to maximize the amount of points that you get. So there's a little bit of luck. You can play it in a way where you draft the resource to not only benefit you, but perhaps to hurt someone else. And so, or you can just play it randomly where everyone has to adjust to the resource drawn in a roll and write type of fashion. So very flexible and a really fun game that I enjoy a lot. Number 47 is going to be Steam. Steam is the only Martin Wallace train game that I've been able to play. I'm hoping to play Age of Steam at some point, but I guess this one is what what I'm settling with for now. It's route building, train route building, epitomized here in this game. Not much more to say. Just really enjoyed exploring this game. The one chance that I had to play it, and want to dive deeper into this maybe next year. Who knows? On Mars is on the list at number 46. I keep losing track. 50, 49, 48, 47, 46. Yeah. So this was one of the heaviest games that I've ever played. But once you started getting into the flow of how the worker placement works and what the different areas of your board can accomplish as well, this kind of became a very thematic and fun game to play. Because of its depth and complexity, I don't see me pulling this game out, opposed to other Lacerda games. There is one more, I believe, that is ahead of this one, but this one is really fun, especially if you like the space theme. 45 for me is going to be Dominion, one of the original games that I played when it comes to hobby games earlier on in my hobby experience. The fact that you can mix and match a lot of these different cards and expansions to create a unique experience every time. The streamlined ability to deck build reminds me of my pre-construction, deck building days before I started playing hobby games, coming from traded card games and digital card games as well. And so this format really appealed to me, and I think you can really dive into strategy with this game as well. And so this one holds up for me personally as one of the best games of all time. 44 is going to be Concordia. This game I've played a handful of times. This is one that I want to dive into a lot more. I like the mechanism of playing your cards and then bringing them back into your hand. The resource management and various maps also create a really interactive and unique experience every time. Just a classic Euro game that I think everyone should try if they want to dive into Euro style games at first. It's either going to be this game that I think people should play or my next game, which are coincidentally very close to each other. And that is 43 for me, Castles of Burgundy. Another classic Euro game from 2011, also available on Board Game Arena. And you are filling out your personal tableau using dice, mitigation and usage, whether to draw tiles from a main board or to play them onto your own board. Lots of different ways to score, to gain resources, to purchase tiles, and it's all about making the most of what you have with your dice rolls, mitigating them with workers. And so I think this game really introduced a lot of those concepts that a lot of modern games are taking advantage of today. And a lot of cool, unique, yellow-colored buildings for different ways to score as well. This basically has everything that makes a really good and solid Euro game that people should try. 42 for me is going to be Nucleum. I mentioned this in my top 2023 games. This one makes the list for me, mostly because of the potential that it has to rise in my list as I get to play it more. But I really enjoy the mechanisms that are meshed here from inspirations of Brass and Barrage, which are higher up on my list. And yeah, so I really look forward to playing this game more and hoping that it continues to have increased depth of strategy and utilizing a pretty streamlined rule set as well for a complex Euro game. So finally, my 41st game is going to be Underwater Cities. You can play this on Yukata, and in this game I really enjoy the worker placement using cards and matching those cards with the colors as well, mixing and matching the actions that you take every turn to build out your own tableau. It's a really fun game if you like worker placement and things that are if this style of play with mixing and matching worker placement spots and having that be your puzzle as well as building out your own tableau. There are a lot of games like this on my list, but it's hard to compete with some of those in my opinion, maybe because of theme, maybe because of how long or short the game is, but yeah, this one lands solidly for me at 41. My number 40 is At the Gates of Loyang. Now, I think this is my lowest heavy box Euro game from Uwe Rosenberg, and I'm surprised myself that this has fallen so far for me. It used to be one of my favorites, but I think what has made it drop for me is the lack of variability that comes in these cards. I like the card play in this game, the freedom that you have to take actions to create an engine of vegetables that you use to fulfill these orders with. When it comes to the helpers, though, I think if there were more of these different types of helpers, I think that would make it feel a lot different. But I understand that there needs to be some conservation of what these helpers can do just to keep it a little bit more streamlined, but still a really fun game, and you can play this on Yukata. At the Gates of Loyang is number 40. Number 39 is Arboretum. This card game creates a lot of different and tough choices. It's I wouldn't say it's easy to teach, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it becomes really fun, really quick to try to make sure you're creating a nice path of trees for your own benefit, but also preventing your opponents from getting the trees that they need as you play a card and discard one to a pile that people can draw from. And so, this game creates a lot of tough decisions, and it's really fun to play with a wide audience of folks who want to play. Number 38 is The Wolves. I talked about this recently on my best games of 2022. I really like this game for the interaction that you have on the board with your wolves and how you take actions, pairing them with, you have action tiles that if you pair the same location type with, then you can take an action pertaining to that location. And so it creates a lot of planning ahead type moments, and the control for these different areas and different epics of scoring, and the ability to take control of some of your opponent's tiles as well and replace them with yours makes you have to stay on your toes when you play this game. So this is a really well done, abstracted kind of area majority type game, and so that's why it makes it so high on my list. Number 37 for me is Cascadia. This one is a highly regarded game of tile laying and fulfilling objectives. I like how the objectives can be different every game and how neat your tiles can look as you start to build out. And you have more and more options that create tougher and tougher decisions rather than its neighboring game or sister game, Calico, which decreases the amount of freedom that you have to choose as you go throughout the game. I like this alternative style of building out and trying to make the most of what you have, and juggling different objectives of creating longer terrain types, and also fulfilling the objectives of the animals that you're placing on them. So Cascadia really hit the mark for me there. Number 36 is going to be Root. Now, I think this game has one of the most potentials for rising in my ranks the more that I play it, even though I've played it over 10 times. This is mainly playing with one faction, and that's kind of what holds me back a little bit, is having to start over and really learn a new faction on top of all of the expansions that are available in maps and etc. But this game is super fun. I love how you take like a coin type of game, a counterinsurgency type game, and to make it a little bit more streamlined and visually friendly for anyone to play. Maybe this is my gateway into those types of games as well, like GMT games, etc. But for the moment, I think I want to really dive into this game and continue playing it to really get into the meta surrounding the different factions that you may be playing with, as well as the opponents that you play with as well. So I love the potential for this game, and it will definitely rise, I think. Number 30, so that was 36, so 35 is Mombasa. This is my second favorite Alexander Pfister game. I really enjoyed the variety that you have in these tracks, and although tracks aren't typically my favorite mechanism in a game, that makes it really appealing. I really enjoyed how these tracks were really tied to this central board, and I really enjoyed the action selection mechanism as well. The planning of playing your cards onto your tableau and then picking up a row or a column, leaving some of the cards that you already played in a stack that you can pick up later and utilize in subsequent order. So I really enjoyed that planning and action mechanism, as well as the interactive board. So Mombasa is really fun. But Maracaibo, right next to it, is probably my favorite Alexander Pfister game to date. This game, I love the card play in this game, and the variety of cards that you have, which give you certain benefits, can really help determine which avenue of play that you take in this game. And yeah, I really enjoyed just how variable this game can be based off of how far you travel on the board. It really, the rondel nature of the board and how far you can go really can push the game to be faster or shorter, depending on what other players do as well. And so I like the tension that creates, and the puzzle that you have of unlocking your own board and unlocking different actions. I think, based off of the cards that you have and what other players are doing, you can kind of pursue a certain strategy. And it felt easier to me to understand strategically than it did for games like Western Trail, which has not made my list, and so maybe that will be rectified in the future. But for now, I really enjoy diving deeper into Maracaibo. Number 33 is Viticulture. So this includes Tuscany as well. I really enjoy Viticulture. I think this is a game that I love pulling out if I'm not able to pull out a Uwe Rosenberg game. I would rather have the farming theme and the card play of those games before this one because I feel like the cards can be a little bit random. I think it's interesting that you can base your strategy of gaining points other than just straight up farming from your board, or I should say, creating a vineyard and harvesting the grapes for wine. But so it is interesting to me, but I prefer the other card-based Uwe Rosenberg games ahead of Viticulture because of that, even with the Tuscany expansion. But I still won't turn a game down of this and really enjoy how variable each game can be because of the cards. Speaking of cards and farming, Beer and Bread is my number 32. This left a really good impression on me. I wish this was a multiplayer game, but I do like the fact that it's a two-player head-to-head type of game where you're managing resources and using all of these cards in a multi-use fashion. Every card is different and has different effects, and that is something that I am a huge fan of. And so more of this type of game to come as well. But I hope to get this game played more, and if I do, it will rise for sure. But Beer and Bread left a pretty good impression on me, as well as Woodcraft, my number 31. Both of these games from 2022. So I mentioned this in my video as well, but yep, just really good Euro-style mechanisms with utilizing these dice in a unique way, splitting the pips and the sums of these dice into more parts, made the puzzle really interesting to me. Kind of similar to Castles of Burgundy, but not really. And the rondel for action selection was really neat too. So yeah, Woodcraft makes it on my list at 31. At number 30 is Anno 1800, a Martin Wallace game based off of the video game. And this game was really interesting, really fun. I like how, free you are to choose your route of fulfilling objectives that are, in your card, developing your own personal board of what goods you can use, as well as the ability to use goods from other folks as well, creating that interaction there. Lots of different ways that this game can play. I will say that I've only played this game solo and haven't really experienced the multiplayer version of this, but I'm hoping to do it at some point because this game really left a good taste in my mouth after I played it. So that's number 30. Number 29 is the Guild of Merchant Explorers. So I lied. This is probably my highest ranked roll and write type of game. I really liked how bombastic the cards get in allowing you to do things on your own board and how to explore it. It may seem daunting at first to be able to explore this whole map the first one or two rounds that you play, but with each subsequent round, of which there aren't many, the sheer nature of being able to explore and really rack up the points really escalates as you get throughout the game. And so this is a really, really fun roll and write game that I highly recommend. Number 28 is Dune Imperium. I am really excited to play this game more. I mean, it's getting very good praise from most people. The two times that I've played this game in person have always been really, really crazy and fun, especially with the military aspect and creating or increasing the military might that you have to impose on other opponents and win these battles. Really made our games come down to these, in addition to the just straight up deck building and playing cards from your hands and worker placement aspects. It has a lot of good mechanisms that I enjoy. The theme itself, I mean, I've read Dune, and so there's a little bit of connection there, but I think the military aspect of this is what really made it stand out to me, and I'm really excited as this game Soon we'll have more of a digital presence as well. I'm hoping to dive into this one more. Messina 1347 comes in for me at 27. This game I really enjoyed for the theme. I like the thematic story and arc of this game, where the plague gets pretty bad during the game, but then slowly as you start to combat the disease, you start to rely less and less on taking out the plague and more coming back to repopulate Messina. Lots of good points there. I like the variable boards as well. That creates different objectives for you to pursue each game. The Actually, the next game on my list really pertains to how you move workers around this modular board as well. So a lot of really cool mechanisms in the game that I really enjoy playing. But Yokohama comes in at 26 for me. Yeah, 26. And so Yokohama was one of my very favorite games. I've played it 41 times on Board Game Arena. I'm loving the new version of this game coming out as well, but I think this has fallen a little bit for me, just because despite the amount of time and research that I've done in making sure that, or diving into the mechanisms of this game, it's still a game that is tough for me to play sometimes, just because I if I think I know what is going on with the strategy of this game, and the more that I have to learn from it, and so it kind of deterred me from playing it more. But I mean, it's basically you're placing routes down with these assistants that you have, and you're moving your main president around the board, taking actions on this modular board, buying cards and collecting icons, sets of icons, and increasing your influence in different areas of the board, sideboards like customs and church actions and things like that. And so, really cool game if you like kind of a worker placement with a modular board type of thing. But it's definitely one that I should return to and try to explore a little bit more. Number 25 is Merkator. This game is an underrated game by Uwe Rosenberg that has order fulfillment, and it's kind of similar to Yokohama and Messina in a sense, but you're traveling around this board, um, gathering cubes and allocating these cubes onto your own storehouses to be able to fulfill these cards. And while it does not look as exciting as it potentially could be, the fact that you can um, take if someone is traveling from one part of the board to the other, you can hop on with your opponent to go to a different area of the board to take advantage of that as well. And so you're always aware of what people are doing on their turns, and so that creates a little bit of interaction as well. And the whole timing aspect of how the game ends is pretty interesting as well. The solo game is pretty cool and neat. You're racing against a clock and slowly losing different objectives that you can fulfill. And so, yeah, it's a unique solo game, one that I want to play multiplayer. But yeah, as bland as it looks, it's actually a really fun order fulfillment game. So that's Merkator. 24 for me is Disney Lorcana. I talked about this in my last video and podcast for best games in 2023. I have played it many more times than just 10. I kind of stopped keeping count because I play this weekly with friends in person, and so the trading. This is my trading card game right now. I've really enjoyed it. It's not as deep or complex as Magic or Hearthstone or some of the other card games are, but it probably will get to that point at some point. I like the IP, I like the art, and because of the simplicity of the game itself, it's easy for me to play board games and get into Lorcana as well. And I love tinkering around with different ideas and different decks. I wish that the metagame was more diverse. It hasn't been so since the start of the game. And so there's kind of a paywall behind, getting some of the best cards, which stay consistently constant without much variation. So hopefully that changes soon. But Lorcana is a fun game if you want to get into a trading card game, I think. Number 23 is Clans of Caledonia. This is my preferred game out of the similar style games like Gaia Project and Terra Mystica. One, for the theme. Two, for the unique market that you have in this game, where if you buy a certain resource, you move the dial or sell it, and you move it up and down, and it's order fulfillment. You pick up these, and you're allocating resources onto a shared board based off of money, and so a little bit of elements from like brass as well, with just using coins and money as a resource rather than these milk and wheat, etc. And so yeah, it's a very cozy and inviting theme to me. Farming in the Highlands of Scotland. It's got asymmetric player powers as well, and yeah, this is a really fun game that I hope to play even more of. And I'm excited for the new expansion to come next year. So here's another surprise for me. So number 22 is Wingspan. I still think it's a 10 out of 10 game. I've played this over 50 times, but when I made this list, I wanted to rank these games off of how excited I wanted to play these games in this moment. If I had all of these choices, which ones would I pull out first? And Wingspan, for me, while it's a masterpiece of a design, in my opinion, I was really drawn to all of the birds and the individuality of these cards. I mean, sure, these cards could be a little bit more individual, but I really like the thematic integration of how these cards or these birds play into their bird powers, and I like the simplicity of this game as well, with only 4 actions that you can take. It does take a while to play, I think, if you're playing with new people, which was kind of a deterrent for me for bringing this game out more often. And I wish I could play it with the expansions on Board Game Arena. Now I'm really excited because the Oceania expansion was recently released digitally on its own app, and so I'm excited to dive into that more. And I think that's what I was missing, because I liked how Oceania introduces a new board that fixes the lay eggs action, which was pretty dominant in the earlier formats of this game, and it introduces new cards and a new wild resource as well. And so I feel like there's going to be a little bit more variation in that game, a little bit more strategic depth, and I like the new board as well. And so once I start playing that more, my opinion of Wingspan, while still high and elevated, may rise a little bit more for me on my lists. And I'm going to finish out this video and this list with my number 21 game, Atiwa. So this is one of the latest Uwe Rosenberg games back in 2022, one of my favorite games. One, for the solo version of this game. I think that is the peak way to play this game. The solo campaigns really push you in different directions, whereas the multiplayer game kind of feels like it's going to play out the same way every time, especially with the way that the breeding works. I go into a little bit more depth in my other podcasts about this game, but for the amount of fun that I've had playing this solo, for the different puzzles and challenges there, but also the really sheer amount of fun that I've had in multiplayer, where everyone is just having a fun time playing bad actions and etc. It just created a really fun time in the multiplayer sense that if I can pull this out and play this multiplayer a couple of times a year, that will keep it high on my list and keep me satisfied with owning this game. And so I hold it in high esteem. So that's Atiwa. And that's the end of this video. I'm going to continue with my top 20 games in the next video. Maybe I'll spend a little bit more time on each, but hope you check that one out and hope you schedule an appointment with us real soon. Take care.